If this is your first trip to Fiji, a big bula vinaka and a warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very important tradition for formal occasions here in our country, and that is the garlanding of our guest of honor. It signifies the importance and the reverence that we give to this chief guest. And ladies and gentlemen, it's also an opportunity to highlight just how important we find our guest of honor. So I'd like to invite Mela from the Reserve Bank of Fiji to please come forward to garland Dr. Hannig. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to officially welcome you to the discussions today, it is my pleasure to invite the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, Mr. Ariff Ali, to please commence with the official welcome. Let's give Mr. Ali a warm welcome, please.
The Executive Director, Alliance of Financial Inclusion, Mr. Alfred Hannig, Deputy Governors and Senior Central Bank officials, members of the Reserve Bank of Fiji Board, our AFI colleagues, participants, stakeholders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Bula Vinaka and a very good morning to you all. I hope you all, for those of you who attended the dinner, I hope you all enjoyed the dinner and the cultural item. For those who did not attend, maybe just inform me that the vegetables are still waiting for you. Maybe briefly talked about the word Bula. Bula in Fijian means good morning, good day, good evening. You have a blessed day. A few months ago, we had this Fiji International Golf Tournament. And there was an Indian professional golfer by the name of Bulla. So everywhere he was going, people were saying Bulla, and he thought people were calling him. But he was so inspired that ultimately he won the Fiji International Golf. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to Nandi for this inaugural Conference on Smart Policies for Green Financial Inclusion. I'd like to especially welcome those who have traveled to Fiji from abroad. I understand we have delegates from as far as Armenia. We've traveled 3 days to reach here, Tanzania, Southeast Asia, as well as our friends from the Pacific. I also extend a special welcome to our distinguished guests and speakers who are here to share with us their invaluable knowledge and experiences. As you know, this important event launches AFI's workstream on financial inclusion and climate change in Fiji. The question that I asked my team is I want to share with you is, why did RBF support this conference? So ladies and gentlemen, the timing of this conference is pertinent, particularly for Fiji and the Pacific and our Pacific neighbors, for a number of reasons. Firstly, data for the past decade shows that our recent experience with natural disasters brought about by climate change has been twice that recorded in any decade, and has been even more severe. In February 2016, Fiji felt the full brunt of a tropical cyclone, Winston, a severe Category 5 storm, which brought home the reality of climate-related events that are becoming more frequent and increasing in strength. This, at that time, was the second strongest storm in the world and the strongest in the Southern Hemisphere. Our rebuilding efforts for Tropical Cyclone Winston still continues today, almost 3 years after the event. The country lost almost 1/3 of its GDP. This year, we had 2 back-to-back cyclones, Tropical Cyclone Josie and Tropical Cyclone Kenny, weeks apart in the early part of this year. And this was followed by a drought. So a lot of people it's hard to imagine that such a small country, we had cyclones and then we had a drought. So we have first-hand experience on climate change and its impact on our people. Sometimes it still baffles me that Donald Trump still thinks that we're not, there's no climate change. And I just read the latest news that the key advisors or government advisors said that yes, even US is suffering from climate change. Secondly, as policymakers, we are all aware that in seeking to manage the challenges brought about by the aftermath of these natural disasters, a key observation we have made is that our low income and vulnerable households are the hardest hit and worst affected. This directly impacts our ability to meet our vision, which is leading Fiji to economic success. Thirdly, as developing and emerging economies, we also acknowledge that public funds are limited, and furthermore, due to a number of competing priorities, are not sufficient for all our communities to rebuild their livelihoods and ensure protection against impeding climate-related events. This therefore creates a need for financial sector to play a critical role in allocating resources towards sustainable and green economy, particularly given the magnitude of investment required to weather future storms. Lastly, but equally important, is that we are therefore grateful to AFI for initiating this important conversation through organizing this conference. We do not profess to be experts in this area. Partnering AFI augurs well for our reputation as well. AFI is widely and internationally recognized as the leading institution in the financial inclusion space. The Reserve Bank of Fiji therefore is thankful for AFI for this opportunity to co-host this event, which is very timely given Fiji's current presidency of COP23 and in line with a number of green finance initiatives that Fiji has been driving. Let me briefly touch on RBF's role and its current commitments in green finance and building resilience through policies on financial inclusion and climate change. Our initiatives are anchored on Fiji's Green Growth Framework, which has laid the foundation for sustainable development in the country, while the Financial Sector Development Plan 2016 to 2025 also recognizes the need to support green finance in Fiji. The Reserve Bank of Fiji is also committed to working with partners in developing and promoting sustainable business models under the Maya Declaration. This is supported by the National Financial Inclusion New Strategic Plan 2016 to 2020 on the development of green financial products and services for individuals, households, and micro and small enterprises. Moving forward, the Reserve Bank is currently working with Sustainable Banking Network to draw up a roadmap towards building a sustainable financial system for Fiji. I recall that green finance and its linkages with financial inclusion was one of the discussion topics in the 2016 AFI GPF, which the Reserve Bank co-hosted at the same venue. As we now know, green finance has become a prominent policy agenda among governments, regulators, policymakers, and development agencies. In Fiji, the concept of green finance is still embryonic and will require further research and consultation on products that would be appropriate for small developing economy like ours. Nevertheless, we have achieved a significant milestone when Fiji became the first emerging market economy in the world to issue a green bond in 2017. The issue raised about 100 million Fijian dollars towards financing government infrastructure projects targeted at climate change mitigation and adaptation. Our green bond is listed on the London Stock Exchange, and we are the first sovereign to list its green bond on the exchange. One of the key requirements of the green bond principle is increased transparency, and this is done through a special audit and monitoring report on the use of the funds. I'm pleased to inform that this report is now ready and has been audited by KPMG and should be released anytime soon. Ladies and gentlemen, in acknowledging that financial services are a tool to build resilience in the face of shocks related to climate change, the transformation of financial system is therefore important in promoting green finance. Such a transformation needs to be complemented by enabling regulatory framework, adequate fiscal incentives, and appropriate reforms. In this regard, the Fijian government, in collaboration with the Reserve Bank of Fiji and some licensed financial institutions, has introduced various programs to support climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience in Fiji. This includes the establishment of natural disaster rehabilitation facility to assist businesses and households affected by tropical cyclones, flood, and other natural disasters. Two key initiatives announced in the national budget was the parametric insurance and crop insurance. I'm pleased to highlight that the government has now finalized the parametric insurance, which will be announced by the minister very soon. Work on the crop insurance continues, and we hope to finalize this in 2019. A pioneering initiative that we have undertaken is the introduction of a bundle microinsurance product for sugarcane farmers, which has now been extended to dairy and rice farmers, as well as copra. And as of the latest national budget, this has been extended to civil servants as well as all social welfare recipients. While this bundle insurance product does not cover climate-related risks, such as cyclones, windstorms, flood, and drought, the Fijian government is adamant it is in its effort to design and offer climatic resilient insurance product to Fiji households in the near future. This microinsurance product has increased the penetration of insurance from around 14% to almost 40% in just over a year. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned at last night's welcome dinner, you have an exciting 2 days ahead. I recall one of the outcomes of the 2016 AFI GPF that Fiji hosted was recognizing that capacity building and awareness form the critical first step in developing relevant technical and analytical capabilities with regards to better understanding the financial implications of environmental risk. It is therefore acknowledged that AFI, as a proven, successful global knowledge exchange platform in financial inclusion, can contribute in building capacity of its members in the area of green finance. I therefore wish to acknowledge again and with gratitude AFI's continued efforts to elevate our knowledge and capacity through the organization of this inaugural conference. This conference aims to synthesize these challenges to meet three objectives. One, discuss specific actions that AFI members can take to address financial inclusion and climate change issues. Two, share experience on how best to utilize AFI's network for knowledge building and peer learning. And three, explore options for related strategic alliance and partnership at the global level. In closing, I urge all participants to make the best of this learning and network opportunity. I'm certain that this will achieve our three objectives over the next 2 days. I also wish to invite you all, in particular our overseas visitors, to take the opportunity to see a bit more of a beautiful country while you're here. Do enjoy our local hospitality, and I wish you all a fruitful and successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor, for those warm words of welcome and also setting the tone for today's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, the smart policies for green financial inclusion is a very important discussion topic, and to have the presence of the Executive Director here highlights the importance of the discussions that we'll be having over the course of the day. And we look forward to hearing his insights into the topic and also a few more words from him. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Director, Dr. Alfred Hannig.
Governor Reserve Bank of Fiji, dear members, partners, stakeholders, representatives from the private sector, and of course all other people who have found the way to Fiji to attend this very important event. Can I go back to the tradition that we have had like 2 years ago here in Fiji when we said Bula? Didn't we? When we said Bula, then the crowd would respond Bula. So, Bula? Bula. You see? So, good morning, everyone, and Bula again. I would like to start with a word of thanks to our host, Reserve Bank of Fiji, and I think last night we had a very nice dinner event with a very interesting performance. I hope no one tried to do what the performers did there, like walking over the hot stones. I think that was quite impressive, and I wouldn't dare to do it, but apparently it's possible. So this is maybe a good example for what we often find in our own professional environment. We often think that things are not possible. We see that other people are doing things, and then basically you can see that things are possible. So maybe the only roadblock in our professional world is the lack of our own imagination. And I would like actually to link this to this topic of climate change and financial inclusion, which I think a few years ago we did not have on our radar screen. And we did not think that this would be possible to bring this into a work stream to AFI. I would like to thank Reserve Bank of Fiji to take the initiative, having taken this initiative to bring us here, but also to thank all the people in the room who have come here. And normally I would greet the member institutions and some of the stakeholders, but this would take too long. So maybe let me just give you a flavor of who's in the room, and I will just mention the countries who are here, because I think that gives us a good overview. So I start in the reverse alphabetical order, and I start with Vanuatu, USA, United Kingdom, Thailand, Tanzania, Swaziland, Sri Lanka, Solomon Islands, Samoa, Kenya, Indonesia, Fiji, Costa Rica, Cambodia, Belgium, Bangladesh, and Armenia. So these are the countries which are represented in this room, and I think it is a pretty impressive global representation. Yes, we are back to Fiji. We are not only back to Fiji, we are back to Nadi, and we are back to Denarau. And this is where I think we sent a very strong signal 2 years ago to the world when we, in fact, launched the Denarau Action Plan, which is AFI's commitment on closing the financial inclusion gender gap. In the meantime, many things happened on that front, but I would like to focus on what we are doing today, and this is really to leverage the initial interest from the members that came up, I think, at the Global Policy Forum for the first time in Maputo, 2015, where members expressed interest to work on issues around climate change and financial inclusion. And I must say that my colleague Klaus actually reminded me yesterday that we got a very strong push before that GPF from Bangladesh, from the previous governor, I think Atiur Rahman, to include a session on financial inclusion and climate change in the GPF. And as I said, for us it was a bit like, yeah, this is relevant, but we don't have too much experience. So we invited UNEP, yeah, and at that time, I think you remember that UNEP had just published the UNEP inquiry, which looked very much into green finance and particularly also into the investment side of things. So we found that very interesting, and of course, from then onwards, we started to identify what is the specific gap, the particular need that AFI members might have to, in fact, make a contribution to the global challenge that the governor has also outlined. So we really tried to look into financial inclusion and climate change, and in other words, we ended up with looking at basically two aspects that were also mentioned. One is, of course, the whole issue of resilience. The other one is, of course, how we can, in fact, promote from a regulatory side investments in green technologies. And we are not looking at the upper end of the market here. I think we are really looking at those ones who normally also struggle to be included. And we ask ourselves, how can they make a contribution to sustainable financial inclusion? And this is now the question that I think will keep us busy for the next 2 days when we look at policy solutions that might help to master these challenges. From Maputo, we went to Fiji. We had the GPF here. And then later on, last year, we went to Egypt. And in Egypt, the network made the next big commitment, which was the Sharm el-Sheikh Accord. And the Sharm el-Sheikh Accord is exactly this global commitment of the network towards financial inclusion and climate change. And if you want, we are actually now working under this accord. In other words, we are now trying to implement what has been put forward by the accord. But we found also partners on this journey, which was for us, of course, very enjoyable because we we got a recognition along the way that what the members have proposed is exactly of very high global relevance. And that's why we got a funding from the German Ministry for the Environment last year to support our activities under this work stream. So this is why actually we can be here. This was not initially on AFI's plan and on AFI's schedule. So we're very happy that we can now make this step. And we can also see excitement among other donors who have come or who will come on board to help us to, in fact, deliver on these very ambitious objectives under the 10-hour action plan. Now, the governor has already highlighted the objectives of this conference, so I would really like just to narrow down on the two purposes as we have put them together. One is, of course, to look on the policy and regulatory solutions that our members have already undertaken in this area. And I can tell you that there is a lot of progress in a very short period of time. There are already 2 case studies which I think have been distributed. One case study is on Bangladesh. The other case study is from Fiji. We hope to collect more case studies. And when you look at these case studies, but particularly also at the results of the survey that is going to be presented later on, you can actually see that we are now already able to fill the kind of conceptual and analytical gap that we have identified in this space when we try to now, with the members' inputs, to categorize some of these solutions that have been identified. So we will later give you a framework where we are able to identify solutions where regulators can take a more active role in the market to promote, for example, investments in green technologies. We will also share examples with you where regulators can take more of a hands-off approach, but perhaps create conditions where capacity building can take place so that end users can actually get access to products that serve the purpose. But we can also see some solutions that look more at the insurance side of things, where actually we can see solutions which are very relevant in countries like Fiji in the aftermath of natural disasters. So we can identify these solutions and also start categorizing them. But the other big purpose I think that we have is to engage with the global community on this. So the question is, what kind of signal are we going to send out of Tenarao this time? So I think this group is going to pioneer a work stream which I think is going to be extremely relevant, not only within the AFI network, but also together with our partners for the rest of the world when it comes to financial inclusion and climate change. I think it's a very important task that we are taking here. So we want to integrate what we are doing in the global discourse, working with the stakeholders, and I think we also need all stakeholders to work with us. And we don't want to duplicate anything that is already out there. We are aware that there are many initiatives going on, but as I said, we are very much trying to narrow down on these policy solutions that are directly linked to the issue of financial inclusion and climate change. And we feel that there's not so much out there, and I think that's why we are doing it. Now, I should also mention at this point that complementarity is, of course, what we are striving for. And this complementarity can really be best achieved when we put members exactly in this driving role, in this pioneering role, to work on these solutions and then share, peer learn, and of course replicate what works. This potential work stream, which is now emerging within the network, is fully aligned with AFI's Phase 3. Just to recall for those of you who don't know, in our Phase 3, as an organization, we are very much looking at the implementation of a work stream, I should say, that that helps AFI to become a policy leadership alliance. And this policy leadership alliance comes with issuing guidance in areas where perhaps no guidance is available, and where also standard setting bodies have not come forward to issue guidance. So we feel that in this area, some of the members, even maybe some of the members in this room, would look for additional guidance. And of course, we try to accommodate this demand. And the other big issue under the phase 3 is the in-country implementation. So AFI has also found that, after all the learning that has already taken place, and exchanges and familiarization with some of these policy and regulatory issues around financial inclusion, countries are now eager to implement. And I think the network is also going to be there to support these in-country implementation work streams. And I think the project that we are discussing here will also support ourselves in this. Now, to finalize these remarks, let me say that I see a very important global responsibility of AFI and its partners. We do not see financial inclusion as a standalone activity. We see it closely related to the Sustainable Development Goals, and that is where we are particularly positioning this work stream as well. And we want to say that we don't see in this sense financial inclusion is not a purpose in itself. When I talk about integration into the global discourse, I think Governor mentioned the role Fiji is currently playing in the COP process. We, of course, value the global leadership that Fiji has taken, and we hope that through you we can get some of these messages into the global discussion forums. Now, as I said, we now expect another relevant signal from Fiji. It will be introduced as the NADI action agenda, which we are going to discuss together and which we are going to finalize, hopefully. And this one will definitely call for global collaboration. And it will, again, manifest the power of global networking and the strength that we all can unfold when we work together. One of my colleagues said recently, wow, there are so many eyes on us. I think, although it's a very small event compared to the last GVF here in Fiji that we had, many eyes will be on us. So we will have to deliver. We will have to deliver on the resolution of the global challenges on the climate change front as well. We can't close our eyes. The financial inclusion community has a role to play. With these few remarks, I would like to end. Wish you all the best for the next 2 days, very fruitful discussions, and hopefully we can go away from Denarau with a consensus on how to move forward. Thank you so much.